Hello, what is up? This is Jon Trom. I'm here with Fitstyle Podcast. Just thought I'd check in with you guys. It's been a minute since I've done an episode, I think around February, so quite a while. Just stuff with prep and everything going, crazy busy, life changes, all that good stuff. So just thought I would check in, kind of ramp up episodes more frequently now. So I thought it would be really good, my first episode back, just to kind of review kind of like my spring season as far as competing and talk about what I'm doing now and what's ahead. So as some of you may know, I did compete in 4 bodybuilding competitions this past April. So the first one was an NPC show, it was a natural show, the Dave Lieberman on April 2nd, sponsored by Muscle Vodka. So for that show, I did classic physique. I ended up in class C, second place. So pretty good. It's my first NPC show, first show of the season. And it was honestly kind of like a test run because originally I wasn't going to compete until August. And we were just, I was looking really good, super lean, all that good stuff. So it was, first show of the month. And like I said, first NPC show ever, long day. Of course, check-ins are always Friday, the night before, getting your tan, all that good stuff. First coat was like 6 a.m. on Saturday, touch-ups, all that good stuff. No, sorry, actually, first coat was Friday, and then Saturday, you got your touch-ups, they put, your face, all that good stuff, and then right before stage, they'll like put that gloss stuff on you. So, it was easily like I was up at like 4:35 and then show ended at like 10 p.m. So that was really good. I really enjoyed that. Dave does an awesome job promoting that show. Super great. They're actually coming up with their second one of the year in October, I believe, which is probably about 14 weeks out with Jay Cutler, which is super awesome. So, that's also an option. But like I said, it was a super awesome show. Lots of great vendors. Buckeye Brownies was there. G Fuel was there. Got to see those guys. Just super great. My next show was the 16th. So I had, a week break. So 2nd, and then didn't have a show the 9th. And then the next 3 weeks I had shows. So the 16th, I did a show called the Michigan Roar, Natural Bodybuilding Classic. That was in Michigan at the Bull Creek Auditorium. That was considered a Natty Revolution show. So I was very new to kind of the Michigan bodybuilding scene. I currently live in Ohio, so they're about 3-4 hours away. That was a great experience. Wonderful show. I actually ended up doing classic physique and bodybuilding there. Pretty good turnout. That I had my coach there with me and some friends, got to compete with, one of our guests, Eleanor, who was there, which was super awesome. Ended up doing pretty well. So in bodybuilding, I got first place. So I got my USBF pro card. And then for classic physique, I got second place. So pretty good for second show of the season. And mind you, my first show ever was August of the previous year. So only 8 months. So 4-month off season, 4 months of cutting, and then here you go, a month of 4 shows. So there we go. So by getting my USBF pro card in bodybuilding with that show, they actually had a pro show the following Saturday. So that was on the 22nd. That was called Pharaohs of the North. That again, of course, was just bodybuilding for me. Much smaller turnout, a little bit different, still kind of the same organization, the Natty Revolution, a little bit different experience. The coach was there with me again, still fun. A lot of sick shots. That really awesome, most muscular shot I have, one that's actually drawn on my Instagram at Jon Trom Pro, is actually from that show. Right before I hit stage, like literally the background is the curtains, and like to the left was the stage right before I went on. So my ultimate hype man, Jake, my coach, just like snapping pictures right before. And just like, I remember the comments just like this dude looks filled to the brim. Like our peak was just on point that time. Like I said, I didn't get to compete with a lot of people that show, but it's still really good. Got first place there, $750 check, super awesome. So it's kind of cool. My third show, I'm actually getting third show that season, getting paid for bodybuilding. So hey, $750, I'll take it. So it was super cool. Then I'm giving the wrong dates. So April 2nd was Muscle Vodka, the Dave Lieberman show. The 16th was the Roar. The 23rd was the Pharaoh. And then the 30th was I guess, somewhat of the original show I wanted to do was OCB, the Buckeye Natural in Columbus. So that was kind of the show I had on my eyes. I guess somewhat originally I wanted to do OCB Cleveland, which is in August. I want to do that again. My very first show I did classic for that, placed third with no coach, barely any prep time, just willy-nilly did it. And so I wanted to come back and switch to bodybuilding and then, aim to win. So since I was ready early, we decided to do that one, the end of April in Columbus. And that was by far probably my most favorite show. Super fun. Eleanor competed in that show again with me. So she competed the last 3 weeks of April all with me. So we both won first place in our divisions. So I was up against two other guys for open bodybuilding and met a lot of really cool people there. It was at the Columbus Convention Center. The Arnold Classic was, I think, like 2 weeks before. So yeah, like middle of April. So yeah, the Arnold Classic was there. So same venue, like super cool, super motivating to kind of like share that same space. Obviously, much different with the natural bodybuilding world. So the OCB, but still very cool. As you can see in the background, if you're watching on YouTube, those are one of the many trophies, all from April. So very, very cool. But so for the OCB Buckeye show on the 30th of April, got my OCB Pro card there. And that qualified me for the show I'm doing now, which is going to be September 10th, which is pretty much like the Super Bowl of OCB shows, which is called the Yorton Cup. So it's pro exclusive as of this year. It used to be where amateurs could join. I think they would get their pro cards if they placed so high. Pretty big show. There's sometimes multiple classes per division. I think there's 30 in classic physique alone last year. So pretty big, very competitive, especially coming up this year with just pros. So I'm kind of throwing my hat in the ring, seeing where I placed there. I felt very confident winning my pro card at, OCB show. I feel like if, coming down maybe 5-10 more pounds from that show, which was about 180, could really do some damage. So a lot of other natural athletes that I follow on here, like the Natty News Daily guys. So like Leroy had an amazing year, and his conditioning was just absolutely amazing. So he was very inspiring to watch his journey. He was competing in April as well. I almost actually competed with him, but I believe my Pharaoh show, pro show, was the same week, and they were kind of like opposite directions. So Michigan, New York, unfortunately, didn't work out. But he had a very successful season. I had a very successful season. We got another show to go. I just thought, hey, I'm already dieted down. Yes, it's another 4 months, but it's 4 more months than getting completely out of something to then get back into it. So it's kind of like the whole idea of you're going to swim halfway and then swim back because you're tired, or just go all the way. So after that show, though, after the Buckeye, it was good, though, because it was a little bit of a diet break. Obviously, I was still tracking, was still considered in prep. but, got to have a cheat meal, that weekend. And then we raised the calories a little bit for about a month, nothing too crazy. And then, so I guess like the last 3 months, so it was the end of April. So all of May was kind of like letting off the gas, bumping up the calories a little bit. And then, so June, July, August is kind of like, dieting down more aggressively. And then September 10th is the show for the Jordan. So very excited about that. Prep is going pretty well. My weight has been kind of stubborn, but that's only one factor. I'm looking leaner. I've, with posing and all that good stuff, I'm seeing a lot of changes, a lot more detail, especially the more I practice posing. And just the way I'm training, just really focusing on the eccentric portion of the lift. So really trying to control that second half really seems to be helping. Really dialing in nutrition. That's been pretty good all throughout this year of prep. I kind of really learned what foods I agree with and don't agree with my body. So that's been super awesome. Recently, we just dropped down, I think, about 2,300 calories, which isn't too terrible. About 200 grams of carb, 235 protein, 55 fat. So really not that bad. I think the lowest my carbs got was like peak week of the last week of April, and that was like 120. And that's not even like completely terrible. I'd imagine mine will get to probably like 50 or something crazy like that. Just because the level of conditioning you need for like classic isn't nearly as intense as bodybuilding. And obviously with, something like the Jordan, where it's like a very big prestigious show, you're going to want to be as lean as you possibly can, maintain your muscle, all that good stuff. So good there. So with that, like I said, weight's been a little bit stubborn. Obviously, it went up a little bit more, letting off the brakes, but not too bad. My physique visually has always stayed really, really good. It's just more so the weight. It's kind of in this like 4-pound like jumble. So my stage weight was probably close to 180, maybe 178, 179. I was at the 180s for a while. And then like the peak weeks when you were depleting, I think I got down to like 176 was my lowest. And then of course you carb up and then you're going to gain more weight. But I was kind of in that 180 average. So that's kind of where I'm floating at now. It'll, if I'm holding a lot of water or sodium or whatever, it might go up to like 184, 183. And then if I'm feeling a bit lighter, maybe like 180, 181. But I would safely say, not that there's a distinctive number, but I would like to lose another 10 pounds. If I could be in the 170s. I mean, like I said, we're just going to try to get as lean as humanly possible. So it doesn't really matter what the number is. We're just going to do that. But that's kind of like my goal is like 170. And I'm 5'10". So I'd say 10-pound difference between classic and open would be pretty good. And I was pretty lean for that show. So feeling pretty good, seeing a lot more striations like in my lower back. Hamstrings are popping a lot. Biggest thing is I just want to see more detail in my glutes. I am seeing some, but just want it to be like super defined. So that's going well. As far as like a mental standpoint, it's getting pretty rough. Prep is no joke. And there's a lot of less than, I guess, optimal or less than just really unlikely, unwanted circumstances that kind of happen during my prep. And I would say, I don't know if any prep is a normal prep. Some people, I see a lot of vloggers and YouTubers who are doing competitions like, oh, this was like the easiest prep or the best prep. I mean, still with that, it's very hard. Considering this is my, I guess you could say third, because I did my first show, I did my own prep. I did technically this is part 2 of my second prep, but I'll count it as a third because I did 4 shows and then I'm going to do another show, and they're so far apart. But, the first 4, because I had all those shows, it created so much momentum. And a lot of people probably don't do multiple shows during a season. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone does. I would say if you're more experienced, that, if you're already dieting down that far, you might as well get the best bang for your buck. If they're back to back, that's great. But when they're so spread out weeks, it's really hard to maintain that type of physique. And you're going to have to, certain shows are going to have to lack essentially. And you want to make sure, I got better and better every single show. I just got leaner and leaner. Peaks were always on point in April. So now, because the Yorton's such a big deal, that's pretty much probably going to be the only show I do. I don't really want to do a bunch of shows around that because I really want to nail that specific show. Whereas instead of focusing on a week of peaking, I can just focus on diving down as much as possible for that show. Now, if I do a show after that, maybe, but at that point, it's been over 8 months of dieting and I'm going to be ready for a break. But, obviously give it my all for the Yorton. So, but back to just the mental state, it's definitely been challenging. I like to think that prep is this thing where you're stripping away fat, but you are in a way gaining character, as if you can visually imagine that. We think about just doing more and putting out with exercises, increasing cardio, taking away calories, all that, which you do. But I feel like, if you're religious or spiritual, it's almost as if prep is a form of fasting. You're taking away certain, maybe luxuries or vices in your life and committing to a goal bigger than yourself. And you're kind of almost hyper focused. Not that you can't have fun in prep or whatnot, but it's you're not going out and drinking. You're not eating whatever you want. You're not doing all this stuff or what have you. You're locked in, or as Jake says, clocked in. So it really helps me reflect, focus on things. Obviously with prep, some of the side effects is you get very hangry, you get very irritable, short-tempered, and it's different per person. Now for me, this is kind of the second half of a prep. So let's say now it's July, that's, month 7 of a prep. So, I have it's only the third. So, 6 full months of dieting. I started January 1st. So that's 6 full months of a caloric deficit behind me with a couple days that were probably, a surplus. So as you can imagine, most people are probably only doing their preps maybe 10, 12 weeks, maybe 14. This is going to end up being 8 months. So just not even necessarily the fact you're in a deficit, but just that longevity, even if it was only 100 calories deficit, just doing that for so long. I can think back to boot camp where, I was, in the United States Marine Corps, and they had by far the longest recruit training. So 3 months. Some people only have 8 weeks. Some I think have 10 weeks, but 3 whole months. And so it's not just the fact that it's super intense, but even just the duration, because it's not like there's a break in the middle of it or anything. I had, that cheat meal, after my April show in Columbus. But my calories went up, but I was still in a deficit. And it wasn't I had a week off or anything. It was okay, your show Saturday, and then you don't have to track for the rest of that day and Sunday. And then Monday, you're back on it. And the weird part was I got even hungrier, even though I was allotted to eat more, because I got a taste of freedom that comparatively to how much I ate over that weekend to Monday. Yes, Monday compared to the week prior was way more. I think it was about 200, 300, 400 calories compared to even just days before. it was like crazy because you're eating like I'll tell you guys that, but I had like pizza and cookies and all that stuff. And then Monday, it's like you're back to like your broccoli slaw, your chicken, oats, and protein powder. I could almost feel like this, like, oh my gosh, because I know what it's like to feel full and eat awesome food and all that. So that was super jarring. That was super hard. Whereas like the last month of prep, a lot of people really struggle with, like 4 weeks out. To me, it gets to the point where like you've just been doing it for so long that you just kind of zone out. Like when I was doing marathon training, you get to a point in a long run where you kind of almost just zone out and you've just been running so long that it's almost like a numbing feeling in a way. Not that like you don't know where you're at or like whatever, but it's just kind of you just have that momentum and you're just kind of plowing through. I kind of get that way where it's almost like the beginning is hard, and then like the more you go on, the closer you are to the finish line. So the closer I get to the show, the quicker things seem to go because the percentage you have, like just because if you think about it, if you are starting and you're like, okay, this is 4 whole months. Now let's say like 2 months go by, okay, I'm halfway. I only have 2 more months. And then so just like the percentage of like what you have left. So kind of like the older you get, the more it seems like time flies by because the percentage of your life it is. See what I mean? So, yeah. So that's as far as like the mental side of things. It's, it's just a challenge. It's definitely not for everybody. It definitely tests you way more than just physically, like going to train and hitting your macros and eating healthy is like practically a given. And for some people, that's the challenging part. It's like they're not used to waking up 5 times a day. They're not used to tracking their food. They're not used to eating healthy. And like that's the hard part. And that's okay. Like if that's your hard, I mean, it's good. All those things are good. But I think on prep and longevity of it, it's doing that day after day, week after week, month after month. And on top of that, dealing with whatever stressors you have, focusing on posing, doing your check-ins, doing all that stuff, and then showing up on game day your absolute best is just like adds so much more because yes, you keep dieting down harder and harder and you keep lifting heavy, trying to progress there. But like life is still ruthless. Like you still go to work, you still have, your family, your friends, your responsibilities, all that stuff still remains. And sometimes new stuff comes up and it's just kind of like, well, no one cares that you're in prep. Like you have to do it. And so that's kind of something I faced where it's like my first prep, it was pretty simple. Like I had a lot of support. It was the first time I was doing it. I wasn't necessarily doing things right. So in that sense, it was more physically hard, but emotionally it's like I was excited, kind of that like, it's new to me. It's really cool. But now I had more to expect. And so as if this second 4 months was harder because I had such a successful first 4 months and it went pretty smoothly. And now I know what 4 months of prep is like with my coach. I'm like, oh, there's 4 more months of that? Oh, man. So I was actually kind of freaking out at the beginning because it was like, do I stop, after April and then maybe wait a couple of years and go back for the Orton? What do I do? And then honestly, it got to the point where, part of me just felt like I just had to do it. It was kind of like I felt drawn to it and almost as if like it's not really up to you. I kind of almost felt like because bodybuilding is so much more than just the tangible awards for me in the tangible physique, it was as if what's going on in my life right now, not that I have to prove anyone anything, but almost had to use this opportunity or use this, like I said, like opportunity of a prep to really gain character for whatever I'm going to do next, in this next season of life, post show. Because post show will come eventually, even though it doesn't feel like this prep's going to end. It will come eventually. And it's not necessarily bodybuilding related, So I felt like there's lessons to be learned in this very specific time that I might not learn unless I was in prep. And certain things I didn't think would happen are happening during this prep. And at first I got mad and I'm like, why is this happening during prep? This sucks. And that might be a reason where you feel like you want to quit prep because of what's going on. But realizing that kind of like the whole saying of your life is falling apart into place kind of thing. So it was actually a good thing and a blessing that I was in prep during this time because it helped me see certain things and really gain the character I needed. So I'm very thankful for how hard this really is and just making, post show and whatever I have next that much better. So that's where I'm going to wrap up as far as emotionally and mentally with everything. So right now, it's July 3rd. Yesterday was Saturday, the 2nd, which is 10 weeks out from the Yorton. So if you haven't already, I do have episode 1 of Road to Yorton on YouTube. Just search Jon Trom Pro. I should be filming episode 2 probably within the next couple days for that. So if you want to keep up with that, like I said, I kind of want to just add more episodes to this. Not that it necessarily has to be about bodybuilding, but, with the name Fitstyle, just kind of making it about health in general. Try to touch on, different forms of fitness and, health as well, mental health. So again, if you want to check that out, Jon Trom Pro on YouTube, Jon Trom Pro on Instagram, Fitstyle Podcast on Instagram. If you want to check that out, if you want to go check out the other episodes, feel free. And if you would like to either join on the podcast or if you have any questions you want to enter, feel free to DM, email at fitstylepodcast@gmail.com. That's pretty much it. So thank you all for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.